interestingly, I hear you.
Okay.
So can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's something that we're not going to gloss over. It's something that we're taking very, very, very seriously. And like I said, a judicial panel of inquiry will be set up to investigate this and bring books for all Nigerians to see who or how we got to this level, we got to this stage, and I have escalated this, like I said, also to the military authorities.
Right, Mr. Governor, let's talk about deaths. People really die. How do we determine deaths and all that happened in Lekki?
Okay, so there were several footages and there were several information as into the number of people that have died and all of it. You saw my social handle and you saw the reported that later that night at about 1:30, I went round all the hospitals that the victims, the casualties, very unfortunately, were taken to 3-4 hospitals over the night. And I personally, with my medical team, went round to ascertain and to see things for ourselves. We went round 1 or 2 mortuaries also that night, right? And yesterday morning, I made a broadcast where I did mention that as at the time I was making that broadcast, we do not have any confirmed death from that incident at Lekki. Very unfortunate incident, at the Lekki Toll Plaza. And I think thereafter, at about 11 or so, I brought out a tweet where we said there was a dead body that was brought into an hospital in Lekki early part of yesterday. And from the preliminary investigation, it was not due to any gunshot, right? This was an injury that medical personnel said it was somebody hit the body, the individual by the head, and so they needed to do further autopsy, to determine what is the actual cause of death. And so I put up that tweet. So meaning that along the Lekki corridor, we have that incident as a death case. Also in the course of our investigation yesterday, right, we also picked up a narrative that we have a dead body that was deposited at the IDH at Ikeja. Sorry, IDH Yaba, that's Infectious Disease Hospital in Yaba. And we found out that there's a gunshot wound on that body. So this was picked up by police in around Victoria Island, and once the body was dropped at the morgue, we went around all the morgues, and this was where we picked another one. So it might also be that this gunshot wound that was reported yesterday might also have been due to the incident of Lekki. We do not know. So in all, I would say that because of the gunshot that we see in this particular single incident that we picked up yesterday, based on the report of the morgue report, we had to go to all private morgues, all government morgues around Lagos to pick up these indices and how there were incidents at the morgue, so that we have a body that we might be able to pass around, and do further investigation today to confirm if indeed it was related to the killing in Lekki. Apart from these 2 incidents that I've just explained now, I do not have any other confirmed, evidence of death from that incident.
Well, Mr. Governor, incidentally, Amnesty International and some other international agencies are reporting that at least 12 persons were killed at that Lekki tollgate incident. But let me ask, how do you plan to restore authority, peace, and order? Particularly as we can see that the hoodlums are still on rampage, they wreaked havoc yesterday, and today people are still nervous. And what level of assistance, support are you getting from the federal government? Because you kept saying you have escalated this matter and that matter. What level of support are you getting to restore order?
Well, I think first thing first is really for all of us, and when I say all of us, all our citizens, all our leaders in various communities, to be able to speak to to our youth, to be able to speak to our children, to be able to speak to everybody that is under someone. Let us, all opinion molders, all our traditional rulers, all our religious leaders, everybody needs to speak out now for all of these protests to stop. We all need ourselves at this time more than ever before. It's not a one-man called Mr. Governor. Right? I think it's all of us that need to now speak up and speak out now. Right? Everybody that has a follower, everybody that has people that looks up to them, we need to speak out now and stop this. We need to be able to restrain these children or this youth going out. Give it whatever name is arson, it's hoodlums, but they are coming from somewhere, and so that is the conversation that we need to take forward now and be able to pass on this message to ourselves. As your governor, I'll continue to work with security operatives to restore law and order, on the land. But I think it's beyond just law and order, because as much as possible, the whole thing started even with the police brutality that we saw. So we do not even want to keep them on the street longer than necessary. So it's really, a community-based engagement that we need to begin to talk to now. We need to begin to very quickly win ourselves back and comfort ourselves back, and restraint has to be at the highest level. This is the sermon that we need to take forward now, so that the agitation, the upset youth that we have, we can calm nerves down, and people can actually just slow down and pause and let us think through this very, very well. This is not Lagos. This is not who we are. This is not what our forefathers have bequeathed to us. This is not the narrative that is central to excellence. The state that all of us are indeed proud of. This is not what we stand for. Lagos, has remained the most peaceful part of this country for decades. And so we're not going to throw away what we've cherished, what we've held on to for this number of years, for this number of decades. We're not going to throw it away just because of these ugly incidents that have happened, in our community. So I want to continue to appeal to parents, to guardians, to community leaders, to our traditional leaders, to our religious leaders, everybody that has anyone, to please come out now and appeal to our citizens. I mean, former President Obasanjo had spoken, our uncle Wole Soyinka had spoken, and I think it's just time for everybody to speak up and to able to calm the nerves, so that we can get the youth and the protesters off the street completely, and some order and law can be restored permanently, into the city that we all love so much, into the state that we all cherish, so much, so that we can begin to see how we bring back our economy, working well for all of us. COVID, have just done a very big blow to us. We're just hoping that we'll not have a second wave of COVID, right? But what we're dealing with now, it's even almost bigger than COVID. So if we can come out stronger, bigger, out of COVID, this city shouldn't define us, shouldn't define what we are, who we are, and by extension, what we stand for. So it's a time for all of us, to hold ourselves, to hold our arms, and to say that we are brothers keeper, irrespective of, the condemnable, properties that we've seen that have been damaged, everybody in one form or the other. I think it's time for everybody to speak up and just, get, our youth off the street, and we put restraint everywhere, so that we can pick the pieces together and we can move the state forward.
Well, I asked Mr. Governor about the level of cooperation that you are getting from the federal government.
Okay, other than security cooperation, so I think the chief of defense staff also called me yesterday to find out, what is happening on ground. Chief of Army Staff also called me and to say that if I indeed require for the military to come out, they will deploy there. But there used to be an operation OP Mensa, which they use with the police force. They said if that is not sufficient, they can bring out more security personnel, especially to forestall destruction of properties, very strong strategic federal government installations, right? And I said, yeah, why not? The airports need to be secured, the seaports need to be secured, all of the terminal buildings need to be secured, some of the public buildings need to be secured, right? And so that's a level of support, that and a few, cabinet members at the federal to call to find out what they can do. So it's really just a conversation around security support that we've got.
Well, following on from your reference to property damage, where we were sorry to see the personal loss that you suffered, and we hope that your family is okay. Can you quantify the losses to Lagos State government? And also in the area of private property, are there any plans in place for restitution regarding business owners and individuals that have had severe losses as a result of the mayhem?
You can't do that for private.
Well, thank you, Tunu. So that will be a work in progress. Nobody has been able to go around to determine, what is the level, of destruction that we've seen. Apart from pictures and the footage that we've all seen, there's not been any compendium, there's not been any reports that we can indeed use to ascertain or verify, what level of destruction. But from even the pictures that we've seen, we can clearly say that they're huge. They will run into very high numbers, into the billions, very unfortunately. And I want to honestly use this occasion to once again appeal, to our teeming youth that this is not who we are. This should not define what we stand for. Please, people should stay off the streets. People should restrain their youth from going on the street again. There's so much pain, in our system right now. There's so much pain amongst us right now. So these are all monetary things that we can work on later in the days and the weeks ahead. But truly, really, is for us to stop bloodshed. Is for us to stop any form of carnage, any form of killing, any form of arson that can lead to loss of life, and properties by extension. So really, for me, that is the message that I'm passing on now. Let us stop, going out. Let us stop, the destruction. Let us stop, the loss of lives that we're seeing. There'll be several police officers that have lost their life. There'll be several innocent citizens that know nothing, about what is going on the street, that have lost properties, that have lost their loved ones, and I think it's something that should concern everyone, every individual, all around the state. So for me, that would be my message now, right? And over the next 1 or 2 days, people will have the opportunity to go around and be able to do a proper inventory, of what losses we have on the state. I imagine it will be huge, coming out from a COVID, infected budget where, the state had to reduce the total budget for the state by over 22%, right? We're just coming out from a slow economic recovery, if not for what has happened, I was meant to be making a state of the state address. Right now, we should be taking our budget for 2021 into the House of Assembly, and where we can roll out our plans, for developmental projects and be able to take our state to the next level post-COVID. But this incident is where we are now. There will be a big setback, but I believe that we'll come back stronger and bigger, resilient as a state.
Right, thank you for that, Mr. Governor. I've got 2 questions. As this curfew continues, number one question I would like to ask is, what is in place for people that are locked at home that couldn't stock up on food and the like, while all of this started? Because a lot of people will start running out of supplies very soon, and they might have to get on the street. What's in place? And I also want to know what you'll do for job creation. All of this hoodlums and this mayhem is indicative of the fact that the youth need job, and there has to be massive, quick response for job creation and social well-being of people. What would you do? Just 2 questions, Mr. Governor.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So around on lifting the coffee, it's something that we're monitoring on an hourly basis, right? And once we see that there's normalcy, all around the state, it's a pronouncement we can make as early as tomorrow, to ease the lockdown, like you rightly said, so that people can even have a means, to stock up, to buy food and all of it. So we're actually tracking and monitoring what events we thought would look like later today. Once we see that the streets are cleared up and people, all the very, very, agitations and high nerves wrecking, issue that we see, once they go down, we might actually release or clamp down, or just slow down the curfew by tomorrow or next tomorrow at the latest, so that people can indeed get something to eat, and begin to put their businesses back in order. We want to put this behind us very, very quickly. Lagos, it's not about the state where you stop, activity for a long time. This is a state that runs 24/7, as it were, and we want that's what we know at Lagos, and that's what we need to quickly get our Lagos back into, right? And the second question around job creation, like you see, post-COVID, we've set out a whole lot of machinery as a state directly to be able to employ and take a lot of our youth. About 2 weeks ago, we had interventions, direct, interventions from Lagos Employment Trust Fund in the tourism sector. We set up what we call hubs, both fashion hubs, to be able to take our teeming youths off the street. There are deliberate plans that we've set up in the 2021 budget and also in the revised 2020 budget to be able to take a lot more people, employed. At our state level, we might not have all of the wherewithal to employ so much people, but we just need to create the enabling environment for small businesses, people that are employing 4, 5, 10 people, to be able to pick up those numbers, because they are the ones that are worst hit from February, March, when the COVID incident started. So part of the things that we're doing, we're giving soft loans, we're giving grants to small businesses, we're reducing their interest on the loans that we're giving to them. We're doing a lot of internship program. We just set up on our website, on Tuesday, so last week Thursday, on our website, an internship program to take about 4,000 kids, and we're putting them in placement in various organizations for the next 6 months, and the state government will be paying. So there's a plan that we have that will have taken or will have been able to attract about 20 to 30,000 direct, jobs creation for our kids, for our youth, in this month of November, in this month of October. But where we are now, we need to reset. We need to reset the button again and see how we're able to do all of these things going forward. But like I said, government in itself, it's not the full employer of labor. Government is an enabler for the private sector to truly really employ and to have the opportunity to bring kids into their employment. One of the things that we're able to get the real organized private sector to do, especially during the pandemic, was to have the conversations with them that no job losses. Yes, you might have reduced retained earnings in terms of your profitability, but I spoke to almost all the CEOs of our big blue chip companies, and they gave me the assurances that they would not retrench or reduce anybody from their employment. And that has been the case, and we're very happy and grateful for that. But our concern really are with the small businesses who are the employers of 5, 4 people who do not have the shock, the ability to be able to retain the shock of the COVID era. So they're the ones that we're opening up these grants for. We've set up a scheme where, for example, in partnership with First Bank, we set up a 5 billion, grant for small schools, small secondary schools and primary schools that are run by the private sector. People that couldn't get kids coming to pay for school fees and all of it. We set up that 5 billion grant. We set up a tourism grant for about 1 billion, just to also kick off that tourism and entertainment industry. These were some of the things that were set up in September and October, and before the end of the year, were rolled out. But we go back, right, and we do our reset button, so that we can have an opportunity for a lot of these youths, to be off the street.
Well, Governor, 2 follow-up questions from what you said previously. One, you said that restoring law and order will require the input of almost every one of us, because we are all members of the Lagos State community, which is a point that many people will understand. But many of these boys who are out there on the streets wrecking havoc, who are on rampage, burning down buildings. They belong to communities. Is there a mechanism in place in Lagos State for engaging with stakeholders, for networks, social networks, that can help influence, talk to these boys who are on the streets to get them off the streets? And then secondly, you talked about getting security support from the federal government. You talked about a call from the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army Staff. But yesterday, when the boys were on rampage, targeting iconic buildings, burning down police stations, burning down BRT terminals, we practically did not see any security group out there trying to check them. And even as at this morning, the boys are at various points, roundabouts, still extorting money from people and threatening innocent passers-by. At what point will Lagosians see that security support and be sure that they are safe?
Thank you very much, Ruben, again. Regarding the opinion poll leaders and the community people, so we have interactions with our CDC and our CDAs, right, which are community development associations at various, about 1,500 of them we have, right, and so we have a means of engagement with them. On Monday, actually, I had several levels of stakeholder engagement. We have influencers in our various communities, our religious leaders, our traditional leaders. On Monday, I was still at a virtual meeting with about 80 of our religious leaders, both Christians and Muslims, pondering and assessing the situation. This was on Monday of where we are. So these are the people that I'm still making my calls to. These are the set of people that have followership, that have people that listens to them. They're the ones that I'm calling out to also make out these calls and be able to pull this youth and the protesters out of the street, and now they look more around hoodlums and all of it. So it's all of us, right? Traditional rulers as well. I've reached out to so many of them yesterday, and I'm saying that in your space of influence, please go out, speak up, right? Let's bring our best foot forward. Let's be able to get people to talk to these youths and to these